Hello, and welcome to the Desert Island Podcast, the podcast where we, three seasoned professionals, are stranded on this tropical paradise and forced to confront the age-old question, what would you bring with you on a desert island if you had no chance of rescue? Each episode, we tackle a new topic to learn more about each other through this life or death scenario, or an extended vacation, depending on how you want to look at it. I am Mitch Marison, your host for this week, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Alex Hubbard and Justin Gregerson. Gentlemen, how you doing? How's life? What's happening in your world right now?
Just catching a tan on this desert island.
It's a tropical vibe, man, for sure.
Yeah.
Catching a tan, I'm certain to burn out here. So,
yeah, let's be clear.
What about you guys?
Dude, I know. All my sunscreen budget went to head sunscreen.
I think collectively we're all in that boat, knowing how clear we basically all are at this point in time.
Yeah.
Yeah, for those uninformed, we're out in the sunny Seattle market. So being stuck on a sunny desert island is going to be punishing for anybody from this neck of the woods.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. But either way, we're making the best of it. So each week we choose 5 of a certain topic that we'd want to be stranded on a desert island with. This week, we've got a very hot one for all of you, not just the sun, but the topic today as well, too. So that's right, we're tackling our desert island albums. Some ground rules going into this. No compilations, no greatest hits, no soundtracks, or no live albums were allowed throughout all this. For those of you that are wondering, how are you listening to these albums? You're on a desert island, there's no electricity. Don't worry about that. If that's the biggest concern for you, I encourage you to go outside and touch some grass. It's going to be okay. Assume that we have everything available to us. So chatting with you guys this week, I know this is going to be a big one. We've all gone back and forth on this text thread to figure this out. I have changed out things as well before we got to this point. So without much further ado, let's get into it. If you're listening out there, grab your coconuts, pour yourself a pina colada, find a comfy spot on the sand, and get ready to join us on this unexpected musical journey, if you will. So I'll start it off. If you were new to this, the way we have this formatted, each of us will go through our 5 picks and what they mean to us. It's an interesting twist on this week. I preface this with the gentlemen that want to hear kind of where you first were when you heard this artist or this album or whatever else it may be, and expected this to come out a little bit naturally, but one of those where would love to hear it up front. So without further ado, here are my 5. I also want to say I picked this not saying these are my favorite albums of all time. These are albums that are strategically chosen that I won't hate.
I think that's a really important point.
Yeah. Need to set the vibe correctly.
Totally. And it's so personal too.
Yeah.
You know, we're not all like our lists are so varied.
Yes.
And it's been really tough, I think. It's almost like an impossibly hard task to narrow this down to just 5.
Yeah.
And thinking about the why it's so hard, for me, it was really, really easy to cut really, really great albums.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, easier to cut than to make the list, for sure, because you have to be able to hear it anytime that you want and
100%.
not be like, I want to break this and throw it off into the ocean.
I think my list was like 40 albums long at one point in the past week or two, and it just slowly had to chip away and make some impossibly hard cuts.
We could realistically do another episode of this of just our choices 6 through 10 as well.
Oh,
too, that would
yeah,
be there
yeah.
or all the spots that were all the albums that were maybe in the 6th spot that didn't quite make it as well instead.
Actually, I think 5 was extra hard this time. If we had set 10, could have done it quite a bit easier.
Yeah.
My 10 is solid, but my 5 is all over the place.
Yeah, we don't want to punish our listeners with a 9-hour podcast episode. That was too, so
We should just play all these albums back to back.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the new move.
That's the new
right
move,
now,
yeah.
Curveball, middle of the pod. After you announce each one, it goes on, and we sit here and wait.
Yeah, we just release it as an audiobook and make it that way.
Please subscribe so we can afford these royalties.
It's going to be very expensive, very, very quick.
Yeah, there we go.
Cool. Okay, so let's jump into it. So my first choice is Geography by an artist named Tom Misch. It's released in 2018. Is a neo-jazz rock album in its own right. It's a Metacritic rating of 73 out of 100. I first heard this album, or I should say I first heard this artist back in 2014 or 2015. He released an EP called Beat Tapes and Beat Tapes 2, which is kind of a blend of jazz and electronic music in kind of a way that I had never really heard before. I was living in Boulder, Colorado at that time after college, and was, I think at that point in my life was always trying to find new music, and not that I'm doing it now, but seeking it out maybe more than I was before. And he kind of struck this chord with me that's a balance between, again, electronic and jazz in a way that I'd never heard before. And diving further into him, everything you hear on this album is written by him and pretty much played by him as well, too, which is crazy to think about it, because it's a very complex album and what's going into that overall.
This blew me away when I learned this from you. It's
Yeah.
a great album. It's a good pick. I had never really listened to Tom Misch before, but just knowing that he is the driving force behind all of this music is incredible, especially at age, 25 when this came out?
Yeah, 25, I want to say. And when he released Beat Tape that came out, the first stuff he came out with, he was 21, I want to say, or something like that. So if you ever wanted to feel inadequate about how good you are as an instrument, this is a great way to get into that. So
I don't need any help with that, so I will thank Mr. Mish for that, but I'm good.
Yeah. Justin, I'm curious if you had any thoughts about this, if you got into it at all.
I think this was, in my opinion, your best pick.
Okay.
I had never listened to it, so answering your question of when I first heard it, it was in the last week.
Yeah.
But as I listened to every album that you had on the list, this is the one I'm like, man, that should be on a desert island.
Totally.
That one is absolute money from front to back.
I agree. Again, it's one of those, like, it's background noise. I have it on when I'm cooking or when I'm doing things. Then when you dive into it, there's a lot in there. So, a little fun fact about this: there's one of the lead singles off of this is called "Lost in Paris" with an artist named Goldlink on there, who's a rapper from Baltimore, and highly recommend you check him out. If you listen to it, it sounds like it's about some lover that he lost in Paris and met and kind of had this quick romance and whatnot. Fun fact, it's actually about a USB hard drive that he lost of music in Paris as well. And like he's lamenting the loss of that because he's like, I put so much goddamn work into this and couldn't figure it out.
Probably some Bitcoin on there too.
1,000%, yeah. And a question from this, have either of you been lost in Paris or any other major city?
No. I mean, I've spent time in Paris, never been lost there. I've been lost in Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam, and that was probably the most terrified I've ever been traveling anywhere, because the use of English is extremely minimal down there. The chaos and amount of people and not being able to figure out where you're going, and restaurants exist in people's basements, and it was just culture shock that I couldn't handle, and when we couldn't figure out where we're going, it's quite terrifying.
Yeah,
so.
I would imagine that makes a lot of sense.
I think that being lost in Paris would be a much more enjoyable experience, just front to back, right?
Yeah, lost in Paris, like that doesn't sound like a bad thing to me.
No, that sounds like adventure.
Yeah, by design.
Nice.
Yeah. I had a similar experience to you, Justin. It was in Zurich, Switzerland. We got off a train and didn't have the cell coverage on our phone, being cheap, and just, we'll find our way.
Yeah.
And definitely walked with a rolly suitcase 3 miles plus in the wrong direction before we found someone who spoke English and told us that we were in the wrong spot.
Okay. Well, you got your steps in for the day. That's all I can ask for.
Yes.
I got lost in San Antonio one time. This was back, actually around the time that I heard Tom Mish for the first time. I was down there for a work trip, and my phone died on the plane because I was an amateur and didn't charge it beforehand. But got my rental car, which was a Fiat 500, like a little. Do not recommend driving that car. Terrifying car to drive around in any way, shape, or form because it's so small. And thought I had a pretty good idea of where this hotel was, and I spent probably 45 minutes driving around San Antonio, which is not a big city, also knowing I'm going to the downtown Riverwalk area, basically driving in circles, and finally, when I pulled over, I realized I was like a block away from where I needed to go. So
nice. You get some good churros on the way?
I did indeed get some good churros down there.
Yeah, the Fiat, in San Antonio, that must have been a widely available rental car.
It was. So the story was originally the rental company was trying to give me a minivan. I got
Never
there.
pass on the minivan.
Well, but I agree, but here's the thing. It was myself and one other group or a family that was on this flight and at the rental car company, and only ones there late. The rental car guy tries to give me the minivan and trying to give the Fiat 500 to the people behind me because of the only 2 cars that they have. And it's like a young couple with like a 2-year-old or something like that. And I'm like, no, like it's fine. Give me the Fiat. And he's like, no, you paid for the minivan. I'm like, guy, just give me the Fiat. It's gonna be fine or whatever. But
it's when you open negotiations with their toddler.
Yeah. Like, what do you got in those pockets?
So, how badly do you want to be upright in this vehicle?
How much do you value your safety? Cool. Okay, moving on. My second pick is Run the Jewels 2 by Run the Jewels 2 by Run the Jewels, released in 2014. An 89 out of 100 on a Metacritic rating. I think both of you probably know Run the Jewels are one of, if not my favorite artists of all time.
Yes.
I have my prints all over their prints all over my apartment. Been to many of their shows.
Is that fingerprints?
Fingerprints, yeah. It's just handprints all over the wall.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I finger paint them every time. I went back and forth on which album to include. I originally had Run the Jewels 3 on here. I updated it to Run the Jewels 2. I think it's one of my favorite albums, full stop, of all time. It is a very intense and loud and in-your-face album as well, too.
Is.
But I think I also prefaced to both of you that you either need to be ready to get hyped up or take political action after you listen to this album.
Okay.
Yeah.
So speaking about your favorite band of all time,
Yeah.
I'm going to pick my words really careful.
You can be honest.
Mitch has been telling me for years about listen to Run the Jewels, Run the Jewels, Run the Jewels. Never gave him a listen. Okay.
Had you heard any of their stuff?
Not a thing.
You never were exposed to Nobody Speak, that music video?
Nope.
Okay.
What's most shocking about this, as Mitch's favorite band, he never has them on at his place. So I wasn't exposed by Mitch to Run the Jewels. So I was excited when Run the Jewels 3 showed up on the list as a good starting point, and I burned that thing front to back. It was an absolute scorcher.
Yeah.
And what I really enjoyed about that album was there were no high or low points.
Yeah.
It was just fire from front to back. I think when you picked Run the Jewels 2, my expectations were too high or something,
Sure.
because I think the album did not fit my interpretation of what would work on a desert island as well as 3 did. And because when I listened to Run the Jewels 3,
Yeah.
it was like I could easily drop a needle on any one of these songs on a vinyl, and they worked.
Sure.
Where I encountered lows on
Fair.
on Run the Jewels 2. So just my take, but I think you had it right the first time before switching over from my standpoint.
That's fair. I think that's a good call. And I will say, I think all of their albums, are very politically driven. The production is very sci-fi-esque, which comes through in LP's production in there, and something that you don't find in a lot of other artists, I would say, overall. But that's the one, I would say, consistent theme between all their albums. It's very unique beats that have this sci-fi element that goes into it. I think the reason I chose Run the Jewels 2 over 3 is that it feels a little bit tighter. I won't disagree with you that the lows on Run the Jewels 2 are way worse than the lows on Run the Jewels 3. Like, there's a song with Gangsta Boo on there, Can You Lay Back is fine, it just feels like okay, whatever. But I think overall, I really enjoy there's a 4 or 5 song run between songs 1 through 5, which is Close Your Eyes and Count to Fuck with Zach De La Rocha on there. That just gets me so hyped up in a way that I can't really...
I actually can see it happening right
Yeah, I'm
now
just
as you're talking about it.
Let's go. We're going to go run a marathon. Going back to where I first heard this, I don't know the exact answer. I think where it was, I got free tickets to go see them open for Outkast in Denver when I was
fun.
living there, around right around the time they would have released this. Actually, it was right before it came out, so it would have been 2013. And I never really heard from them before. I was excited to go see Outkast. And a good friend of mine, Matt Klon, shout out Matt, hopefully you're listening, was a big fan as well, and he was like, you got to get there early and go check this out. And I remember just being like, holy crap, how have I never found these guys before? They're so smart, and the way they rap just hits me in a way that I can understand. They're talking about topics that are important to me, kind of in the political sense, and they're just goofy as hell at the same time. I feel like there's so many lyrics in there that I'm just like, yeah, you're talking about how big your dick is compared to a unicorn horn. This is very funny as well too. So,
Baby Unicorn?
oh, no comment.
Did they win a Grammy for this
They
album?
did not. They actually, I don't know that they've won any Grammys. Killer Mike recently won Rap Album of the Year for his most recent album that he came out with as well in 2024. Some fun facts about this album. This album actually spawned in a secondary remix album called Meow the Jewels, which is a remix of this album using nothing but cat sounds, which is hilarious in and of itself. The story behind this, I think it's worth telling. This is an era when kind of like Kickstarter type merch was big for bands. Like they would have experiences on their merch stores that were intended to be a joke, and for like an insane amount of money they'll do things as well too. So like some examples that I found from that old website was the $75,000 gets you the I'm on the list asshole package, which gets you and a friend guest list privileges and backstage access for up to 10 Run the Jewels shows. We will pretend to like you and introduce you to our friends as our friend. Run the Jewels requires half an hour before stage time to not have to deal with you and your fucking yammering in order to do our pre-stage show stretches, vocal warm-ups, and crying. Other more expensive packages include the offer to fly you to your city, show up to your kids' show and tell during school, and offer to house sit for you. And then there was a $10 million
Amazing.
right?
All you parents out there listening,
Missed opportunity.
take them up. Like,
why would you not do this, right? And
Absolutely.
then the biggest one was a $10 million package, which is Run the Jewels offers to retire from music, only making one song a year for you personally.
Wow.
One of the other, where I'm going
How
with
did no
this.
one buy that? Did
Right?
no one buy that?
Bill Gates missed it apparently. I want to say.
How much was it? Did it?
10 million. 10 million. Yeah.
Man.
Who is that fuckhead who bought the Wu-Tang album.
Oh, Martin Shkreli.
That seems like right up his
bitch.
alley.
That'd be the,
Yeah,
the worst
exactly.
possible version that's
Right,
come
right.
out. But all that is to say is one of the options was a $40,000 to remix this Run the Jewels 2 using nothing but cat sounds. And someone who was a fan started a Kickstarter to
God.
crowdsource this, and they raised $65,000, donated to a series of charities, including animal shelters and civil rights groups as well.
Oh,
And-
that's amazing.
Which is super cool. Again, super funny in and of itself. But
That's such a fun thing to do that goes along with releasing albums. Because correct me if I'm wrong, but they released all their albums for free, right?
they do. Yeah, it's a big thing they do as well, too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, man, it's okay. My respect is growing for them.
There are two guys who LP and Killer Mike have been in rapping for a long time and been in the industry, and I think sacrificed probably a lot of money up front to make this and put it out themselves, and it seems like they're reaping the benefits because they get to do things their way on their own accord and however they want to as well.
Not gonna lie, just gonna share a little embarrassing moment here. When I was listening to it, it was in my car, so I kept getting up the heads-up display saying, Killer Mike and
Yeah.
stuff like that. I was wanting to do research on it. When I got home, I kept entering Prison Mike, and I couldn't figure out why
Very different.
why Michael Scott kept popping up in
Yeah.
a purple bandana, and it took me a little bit to figure out.
Yeah, I really
So,
like track 4, The Dementors.
very nice.
All recorded in Scranton. Do.
So, Mitch, I think I know the answer to this. This is your favorite rap album of all time?
That's a good question. I think I would say so. It's a very close tie between that and Kendrick Lamar's Damn.
Okay.
Really love that album. That hit me at the right point in my life. as
Yeah,
well,
that's a
too.
good one too. This leads me to kind of a larger conversation I wanted to have around music genres.
Yeah.
So, I have what's classified as a rap album on my list too.
Yeah.
And I listened to that right after I listened to this Run the Jewels album, and they could not be more different.
Totally.
And I think it's really interesting too, because growing up, all the country music I heard was on top 40 Nebraska radio, and it sucked. It's all terrible.
Yeah.
And so I thought I didn't like country, full stop. And it took me going out and actively choosing what country to listen to realize, wow, there's actually some really great country.
Sure.
A couple Wilco albums almost were like number 6 or 7 on my list. And so
Wilco
this-
easily could have been on my list.
Oh, some good ones. This is just a larger point that I want to make. We should just get rid of genres. It's such a sliding scale, and it's just it.
Do you mind if we stop
Oh,
for applause?
yes.
Yes,
Thank-
that's
thank-
the point.
We have a
That's
soundboard here, folks. This
great-
is not a live audience. That's here.
It's not?
Yes, I just think it's important for people to branch out, listen to things that you might not think you're interested in,
Yeah.
and then you will discover some great stuff. And I think listening to both of your choices this week really helped expand my horizons.
100%
Love
agree.
it.
Yeah, I feel like again, going even a layer further, I feel like Gen Z / the music nowadays is kind of shedding labels or genres in general. Like I feel like there's so much of what you hear is coming out now is not classically rock or not classically hip hop, and it's a little bit of everything in there, and it feels kind of refreshing in that you see the effect of people listening to different types of music and being able to visualize it in some way and being able to translate it in their own way as well too. So
I think producers are helping kind of cross the bounds between genres as well.
Yeah.
So I know LP is the producer here,
Yep.
but producers are producing music across genres, and I think that they kind of have a certain sound and polish to them
Yep.
that's unique to themselves, and I think that's probably helping people explore different stuff that they might not have listened to before.
I would totally agree. That's a really good point. Question for you guys. So this album has features from Zach De La Rocha from Rage Against the Machine and Travis Barker from Blink-182. Have either of you guys seen either of those bands live by chance? And if you haven't, which one would you have preferred to see in their prime?
I have seen neither,
Okay.
but Rage all day.
Yeah.
I'd love to have seen them live. A buddy of mine has said that's one of the best concerts he's ever been to,
Yep.
and always sad when I miss that one.
Yeah.
At this point in my life, I would also say Rage Against the Machine. But back in the day in high school, Blink-182 was my favorite band for a very long time.
Yep.
They were very important to me, so that would have been definitely one of the bands I would love to see most of all. But now, it's no contest now.
Yeah, I would agree. I have not seen either. I would pick Rage Against the Machine as well too. I feel like I'm with you, Alex. Blink-182 would have been great in the prime and in that moment, but I think at this point, Rage Against the Machine. And fun fact, Rage Against the Machine and Run the Jewels were supposed to go on tour together in like 2020, and there was some. I mean, COVID obviously happened, but some other health things that happened as well too, and led to the cancellation of that. So maybe they bring it back up at some point in time, but would have been a wild concert to go see the two of them together. So.
Yeah, talk about sparking some political unrest.
Yeah, going to be fired the F up. All right, moving on through to number 3. My third choice by the Black Keys is an EP called Chulahoma. It was released in 2006. Didn't get a huge widespread release, so I couldn't find any ratings on it overall. But this is a cover concept album where Black Keys covered songs by blues artist Junior Kimbrough. A very big inspiration for the Black Keys, especially Dan Auerbach. Dropped out of college to pursue music even further after hearing some of Junior's music and growing up with it. A big goal I know in their lives was to meet him and try to interact with him because of the influence that he had, but he passed away before they could finish recording all this. If you've made it all the way through, if you're not listening, I should say, I know we'll probably talk about it here in a second, but the last song on the EP is a voicemail from Junior Kimbrough's widow, leaving them kind of her seal of approval and appreciating what they're doing and trying to capture the sound. It's a very, it's a blues album, but it's very psychedelic and kind of goes a layer deeper, and it's very different from what the other Black Keys albums were, especially following that when you think of Brothers or El Camino or stuff like that as well, too. So I love the Black Keys. I didn't hear this album until later. I first listened to the Black Keys in college and in high school, but after seeing them live in Denver with, I think it was Arctic Monkeys opened for them, I got free tickets and was just like, I'm going to go. I like it. Why not?
All about the free tickets.
I love me some free tickets. Yeah, it was kind of like I got to digest as much as I can, and then this is the one album that has stuck with me the most out of any of them, I will say. So.
This was my favorite pick out of all of yours.
Okay, yeah.
I had never listened to this before a week or two ago. Very familiar with the Black Keys, love the Black Keys. I saw you picked a Black Keys album, and I couldn't believe it wasn't Brothers or El Camino.
Yeah.
Those are the two I'm most familiar with, but I loved this album. Front to back, it almost doesn't, like you mentioned earlier, Justin, you want to be able to drop the needle anywhere and just get into it, and I think this is a perfect album for that. It's all the tracks blend together a little bit in a way that kind of only blues can, I feel like.
Totally.
And I absolutely love this. I went back and listened to some of Junior Kimbrough's stuff as well, and I think this is such a great tribute. It's similar enough that it's a cover, but it's got the Black Keys kind of own twist to things, and you get Dan Auerbach's voice that is so unique and recognizable. This was great.
Yeah.
I'm on the other end.
Okay.
In regards to everything you just said, because I hate the Black Keys.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's
and
that's
so I struggled to even get into the album. I tried and I tried. This is the only one I couldn't finish because I'm like, I can't do this.
Wow.
And
Okay.
I don't like it, and I know. I've got friends that have hated me for years in terms of my
You've
music
got one
choices.
more now
Plus
because
two.
of that.
Yeah, add two to it, but I don't get into their music. I don't get it. I missed the boat on this one.
Is it? Because it's interesting because I feel like genre-wise, this is right up your alley as well too, which is surprising. Is it a voice?
Which is almost exact. My buddy that is like probably where I get so much of my music from. GM for a bunch of like music venues back in the Midwest. He's a huge Black Keys fan. He's like, I don't understand how you don't like it. Like I can't explain it.
Yeah.
I just don't like the sound.
That's fair. Do you like Jack White or the Raconteurs or anything along those lines?
The Raconteurs, their album almost made my list because I think it's one of the best albums of all time.
Which one?
It's their second album. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. So when I say favorite of all time, it's favorite that I don't own. But I listened to it and it didn't make the cut, but I do like Jack White. Yeah,
it's curious because they are two artists who have famously beefed over time and have had problems with each other. And Jack White has kind of accused the Black Keys of stealing his sound and blues rock as well too. So I'm not saying that your dislike or like of them is tied together, but it is interesting to hear that perspective. So. My fourth.
Wait, I have a quick question.
Please,
What is your favorite Black Keys song?
Oh, that's a good question.
Not on this record.
Yeah.
Ooh. And why is it tight
Consolers of the Lonely, though? I need to circle back on that for you. if we were wondering what it was called.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I can't leave it out there. It's
The Raconteurs album, Justin's favorite Black Keys album.
Black Keys cover album.
That's it. Nailed it.
It's going to be Gold on the Ceiling. And I know it's like a commercial song, and it's like it's in every Chevy commercial you've ever heard in your entire life. But I think
Like a Rock?
Yeah, it is.
Cover of a Bob Seger song?
Is it a cover of a Bob Seger song? I didn't know that.
No.
It is not.
It's not. I mean,
okay.
I'm just making shit
All right,
up.
well, fair
now.
enough. Oh, yeah, I mean, that was like shit, so I don't know that. Only because when I saw them, they were touring in support of that album, that song. I don't remember what year that was. And when they came out and played that song, they had a giant disco ball that was like 25 feet across that came into the middle of the crowd. And like right as the first note kicks in, that disco ball came on, and it was just like blew my mind at that moment as well too. So again, I think their deeper stuff is earlier, like around this point in time, but it's just something that gets me like in the right mood as well too.
It's a good pick.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. My fourth pick, it is 2013's Random Access Memories by Daft Punk, an 87 out of 100 Metacritic rating. I wanted something dancier in this choice. I wanted something to kind of have some intense stuff that's on here and some kind of more guitar-based and bluesy stuff as well. But I'm like, I need something that, I want to get up and dance to if I'm stuck on this island for forever. I went back and forth on whether it was a Justice album, whether it was something from Daft Punk. Ooh. I originally had, and I caught myself and I wasn't going to keep it in, Daft Punk's 2007 Alive, which is a live recording of like remix songs of theirs too. So it's kind of a weird, like, based on the ground rules we have, it doesn't really fit in, so I took it out.
Yeah, but borderline cheating.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what I'm all about at the end of the day. So I first heard this album, I'm a huge Daft Punk fan, loved them for a long time. I first heard this album in Boulder. I remember I just locked myself in my bedroom at that point in time and just like listened to it front to back like 3 times over and was like, this is so much fun. For those of you that haven't listened to it, because you've been under a rock or I don't know what you're doing, it is purely a disco electronic album. It is one of the first analog recorded albums that Daft Punk put out front to back. It has features from Nile Rodgers, Julian Casablancas, Pharrell, a bunch of people that are on there as well. It won the Grammy for Album of the Year in 2014. Another fun fact I found when going through this as well, so the last thing that Daft Punk released before they released this album was in October of 2012. They provided a 15-minute mix of songs for Heidi Schlemann's Yves Saint Laurent fashion show using nothing but a mix of songs from Junior Kimbrough.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, which is really cool. I was like, that's a fun little connection when I was going through. I had never heard it before. It was really interesting and like very kind of weird in and of itself, but it was a nice little connection between there as well.
That's great. I think you have a new name for your now inhabited island.
Yes. Wait, Yves Saint Laurent or Heidi Schlemann?
I was going to say Junior Kimbrough.
Junior Kimbrough. I think that's fair. But yeah, I think front to back is a great album. It's really fun. There's enough like dancier songs up there that feel really upbeat with some kind of more down-tempo songs. They build really well. Some other fun facts I was going through when I was reading this. Basically, this album, they didn't have two members of Daft Punk didn't really have an idea of what they wanted to make from an album standpoint, but they were basically like, we are going to challenge ourselves because we don't feel like any of the riffs we've made in the past can last past like 16 bars, so we need to bring in other people to help support us. Since they got Nile Rodgers and everyone else to come in. Yeah, I think it's great. I'm curious what you guys' thoughts are, and had you heard this before and whatnot?
I had. The first time I really learned about the album, it had to have been about 2014 or 15. It was when I was living out east, and I was in a bar in New York, and I think it was "Lose Yourself to Dance." I'm 99% sure that was the song I heard in the bar. I'm like, man, that's cool. I want to hear more of that. And about the same time, I listened to the whole album. What I liked about this pick is it's first off a great pick, and I agree with just that get up and move vibe that it has. This is one of those albums that you forget about. Yeah. It's kind of gone from my memory, and when you put it on the list, I'm like, wow, that's an interesting pick, and I put it on. I'm like, yeah, let's go. Yeah. We can get up and move. I don't know what. Shake it or dance, groove, whatever the kids are saying.
Yeah.
So I like the pick.
Yeah, I completely agree. I've listened to this a number of times. It's been a while. I revisited it in the last week or two. I think probably everybody in the world has heard "Get Lucky," but there are so many other great tracks on here. I think I prefer the ones that are featuring someone outside of Daft Punk. Instant Crush is probably my favorite track on this album. I'm a huge Strokes fan, so that makes sense. But yeah, I love it front to back. I thought it was really interesting, the track Giorgio by Moroder, how he's kind of describing his early way into music of this kind,
Yeah.
and I thought that was a really nice touch. And then the track bangs after that.
I agree. I think you don't get many spoken word intros or songs like that nowadays, and it's really nice to hear that. I also think this is the first dance album that I've heard in a long time that isn't like a pre-recorded set put onto an album that feels like a complete album, and then having good singles off of it as well too.
Yeah.
Which is something that's very, very hard to find overall.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna reiterate that I think for Desert Island, great pick. I'm kind of struggling with my list at this point based on how pumped I would be if I had this this set on my island, and my island is going to be much more depressing, I think.
Mitch, we might have a way to get him off the island, and we're safe this
Yeah,
week.
this
He's
is
going to
good.
vote himself off.
Right?
So.
Like to banish yourself. So the question for you guys. Daft Punk, the two members, are commonly called robots or the robots when people talk about them. In your opinion, what's the best robot and the scariest robot in pop culture? I can start to give you guys an idea.
Yeah.
Scariest is for sure like Arnold as the T-101 from Terminator. Like terrifying. I think the idea of this killing machine that I cannot stop coming after me at all points in time 100% takes that. The best robot, I will say, I don't know that I even had an answer for this, but I was curious what you guys were going to come up with as well too. Man, this is a tough one.
It's Wall-E. It's got to be Wall-E.
Yeah, that's a good choice. That's a really good answer. I'm going to stick with that as well too.
Yeah. Scariest, I think that's a good pick. I was thinking Terminator as well, just based on our conversations last time. I think whatever they're called in The Matrix are pretty terrifying as well.
Sentinels.
Yeah, the Sentinels.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just kind of like the relentless, just destroyers.
Totally.
I was not prepared for this, so I like that. I like that being thrown in there. I'm gonna just go one movie, Ed 209 from RoboCop, and you both got the text message of when that thing shorts out and just absolutely Swiss cheeses that guy in the suit. Terrifying. And same thing. I like RoboCop as the best because. Was that the question? Best
and scariest.
Best and scariest.
So scariest, definitely Ed 209, and best would be RoboCop, because who doesn't want a cop out there that can shoot a guy in the dick for trying to?
Don't want a cop out there that'll shoot a guy in the dick.
Okay, so moving on to my fifth and final pick. My final pick is 2016's A Sailor's Guide to Earth by Sturgill Simpson. It's 86 out of 100. Really, really love this album. I love Sturgill Simpson in every way. This is going back to Alex's point of never really grew up with. This is kind of borderline country. I never really grew up with
country.
Would you?
Yeah.
I kind of detest that a little bit because maybe my skew of country is too modern overall. It feels. I know they use like Americana or folk as well too.
That's how I would characterize it, more Americana or folk. But,
interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
But I think those are subgenres of country a little bit.
100%.
And maybe that's why we need to get rid of the whole genre system that you were talking about.
This did win Best Country Album at the Grammys.
It did.
Erroneous.
2017. But yeah, I really like it. I mean, again, I don't know that this is the album. This is definitely not the album that got me into Sturgill Simpson, but this is definitely the album that I'm like, I love this front to back. I think it's really great. His voice really comes through. I appreciate the addition of horns that come in here because his previous releases are a little more twangy, I would say, not in a bad way. It's meta-modern sounds in country music was the album that came out before this, and it's definitely closer to a true country album as well.
It's an easier album title to say.
Yeah,
too.
this is way easier, so much better. This album, I think it's really interesting. It goes through, it's intended to be kind of a history of his life and a message to his son about what you should do and take lessons from him. And I read an interview with him. He basically said, the goal was that my son can listen to this later in his life and look back on all the things and take advice from me when I'm not here. So really cool to hear that, especially as his growth as well too. So curious if you guys had heard Sturgill Simpson before and what your thoughts are on him in this album.
Yeah, I heard a couple here and there. I'd never sat down and listened to an album front to back. This was a great introduction.
Yeah.
I really liked this. Not my favorite of the ones that you picked, but a nice addition to the island. I was pleasantly surprised to hear a Nirvana cover in the middle of this.
Yes. Yeah, In Bloom, I want to say.
Yeah.
What it is,
Yeah.
That's where I was going to start off. Is In Bloom, I think, is like really like the shock in this when you get to it. You're like, man, that's so solid.
Yeah.
And it's a very different cover too. It's not trying to sound like Kurt Cobain in any way.
Right.
No.
That's I think why it was like listening to it. I'm like, wait a second, what is it? I know this. I've heard this before, and it took a second to click with what it is.
Same.
So, I totally agree with Alex. Great pick for the island. a surprising pick. And my intro to Sturgill Simpson was again at your place.
Yep.
I had not heard him before, so this was the first time I listened to this album front to back. I like it. Not the best of your picks,
Sure.
but a solid pick.
That's fair. I did go back and forth. He just released a new album called Passage du Desire under a moniker named Johnny Blue Skies instead. And it's it kind of goes back to some of his original sounds, but feels like a nice kind of like a step beyond this as well too. I've had it on repeat since July. I'm loving every minute of it, and I debated putting it on here, but I think this fits better as an album. Also, it's sailors. We're stuck on an island together.
Loving
This
every
works out
minute
pretty
of
well.
it. Isn't that Loverboy?
You're being voted off this week.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
Just making sure.
Yeah.
I'm trying to really
good. I'm kidding.
occupy that spot.
But it's totally fair. Again, I would encourage you to listen to his newest album as well, and I can send it over to you guys. So, question for you guys. Sturgill spent time in the Navy, and you can probably hear that in some of the influences of this album, especially on the sailors element too. So, if you were to join any branch of the military, which would you join, and why would you pick that?
Pass. Hard pass. None.
Not even the Coast Guard?
Space Force.
Yeah, Space Force is the answer for sure.
Yes, that's actually a really good pick. I would choose. Can I do search and rescue maybe?
Sure, whatever you
okay,
want to do.
I'll
yeah.
do search and rescue.
Coast Guard.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a good one. Search and rescue, Coast Guard, right?
Well, I'm kind of scared of water, man. I don't know.
That's a big
The
problem.
ocean?
You should not
No.
be doing that.
No. How about mountain search and rescue?
I don't know,
Sure,
man.
yeah.
I think not a military guy, but if I'm going, I'm going all in. So I'd probably go into the Marines, and
Yeah.
if they would have me. But
You've got the haircut.
Yeah,
I do. So
you both do.
that'd be the pick.
yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, I was thinking about this. I'm gonna go Navy and be a fighter pilot. I think that'd be the badass way to go.
Fighter pilot in the Navy and not in the Air Force.
Yeah,
They got F-22s, man. They're sick.
Yeah, but I'm going Top Gun. I mean, come
Yeah.
on.
That looks good on your Hinge profile for sure.
It does indeed. I'm trying to get that highway to the danger zone. So,
right.
those are my choices. Thank you guys for listening to them. We're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back. And we're back.
So, Mitch, your picks are great. You have Chulahoma, which came out in 2006.
Yeah.
And I think all of the rest of yours are in the 2010s or later.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to know what that says about you and your music listening history and how you think the longevity of some of these albums will hold up over time. You're on this desert
what
island
a great
forever.
question.
Yeah,
A really great follow-up question.
And you're not alone here. Like I have one album that came out before the 2000s on
Yep.
my list. So I'm in kind of the same boat. Like, very few classic rock albums are making these lists.
Yeah.
And, I think that is the genre that is held up the best, at least for me,
Yep.
in the past 50 years. So I'm curious of your thoughts there.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because when I was pulling all this together and I was pulling everyone's picks and the years they were released and the Metacritic rating to get an idea of how they were fared at the time, I thought the same thing. I'm like, wow, it's really interesting that everything that I picked is relatively new and something I listened to between the ages of, in kind of that topic of talking about where I heard it first, like between the ages of 24 and 33-ish, I want to say, or somewhere around there. So. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I definitely didn't grow up with a lot of this music. These are all things that I found later in life to that point as well, too. And I think for me, I thought there were a bunch of classic rock albums that could have made this list very easily, but also ones that I don't find myself going back to as much because they're
Yes.
great, but I also found that I just listened to them so much over time, like a lot of Led Zeppelin and AC/DC, that as great as they are, I don't feel the need to keep listening to them over time as well, too. And part of these choices were me loving these albums in some way, shape, or form, or them having some kind of attachment to me, but also not being ones that I'm sick of at this point in time because I haven't overplayed it too.
Yeah, I think that's really important.
Yeah.
I mean, any album, if you're only limited to 5 in 50 years, you're going to be sick of.
Yeah.
Like, let's be real.
Right.
So I think it's important to at least go in not being tired of it on day one.
Totally. And I
Should
think-
we make that as a homework assignment that for this year you only get to listen to the 5 albums you picked
That's
just to
the
see
term.
how well they hold up?
Every week we do an episode of, talking about how much we're losing our minds and listening to the same album.
I no longer listen to music at all.
Yeah,
Can't
I'm
do
making
it.
my own music and pulling out my hair at this point. But no, again, it's really interesting. I read somewhere online or heard in another podcast somewhere that was like, you basically stop developing your musical tastes once you hit the age of like 30 to 35, and you start going back to what you've heard more often during kind of your right before that period of time as well too. And it's interesting because like, you know, most of that stuff kind of fits that bill for this point in time. Now,
I'm in the same boat.
I think there's more great music out there now than there's ever been at any point in time. It's just you have to look for it and you have to do more work than ever before. But it's weird how that kind of is becoming this unintentional self-fulfilling prophecy from this point. So
I think the way we consume music these days is probably affecting that a little bit too.
Yeah.
Like going back to albums, I hadn't gone back to listening to full albums before this in quite a while. Like I consume music in my Discover Weekly and other various playlists and liked songs, singles that I hear on the radio. And if a band I like and know has released something new and I hear about it, then yeah, I'll probably go listen to the album in full. But otherwise, it's bits and pieces here and there.
Yeah, I would agree. And also the bigger question is like how many artists are making albums as an album as opposed to being a way that they're just putting.
They don't do it the same way.
Yeah,
No.
right,
Like
right.
they want to blast a couple singles and get in your ears and then keep going.
Which is fine. I mean, that's what it is, and that's fine, and that's how the music industry is going. But I think looking at everyone's and mine especially, like these are also picked to be albums that you can play front to back that fit
Yes.
together well as well too, which is
Yes.
really important. But
Did you, going back to yours, do you have any that you think will hold up especially well in later in life?
yeah, that's a really good
in
question.
his mind or just in
Yeah.
general society.
No, in your mind, on your island.
I think it encapsulates a level of nostalgia that we don't have at this point in time in a way that I think will make it hold up really well. Like it is, again, it's very much a disco tribute album in a lot of ways and no one else is making disco in that capacity. So I think that will actually hold up pretty well.
Disco will never die.
It cannot die at this point in time. I also, and again, I am slightly biased because I think I love Run the Jewels, but I think Run the Jewels 2 or 3 will actually hold up really well as being kind of an interesting snapshot of this time politically and kind of some of the responses that came out of this, especially with Run the Jewels 2, with Run the Jewels 3, which came out in 2016 as kind of the lead up to a lot of the political unrest that was going on at that point in time, and Run the Jewels 4 is a separate answer to that as well too. So I think those are probably the ones that would hold up the most. I think ones that would hold up the least. I think Chulahoma doesn't land the test of time as well too. I mean, one, it's just very obscure and most people won't hear it and keep it going in some way, shape, or form. And I think blues is also in kind of an interesting spot right now in terms of what's being output from it. So cool. All right.
Great
Well,
follow-up, Alex.
Yeah.
I love that question.
That's a really good question. Okay, jumping over. Alex, take it away. Would love to run through. No, we're not going to Alex next. I can't read. We're going to go to Justin next here.
All right, sounds good. So I'll preface my picks with some of the stuff you guys have already mentioned a little bit and we've talked about, but some of my favorite albums of all time, like Master of Puppets, the greatest metal album arguably of all time, doesn't make the cut, right? And the reason that I picked the albums that I picked is because of their listenability time and time and time again, and sometimes albums like even Three-Legged Dog from my favorite band Alice in Chains, I need them in the moment and I need them for a mood, but if I listen to them too much I burn them out really, really fast. That's also why I don't have any rap on mine.
Yeah.
That's what I loved about that Run the Jewels, that first pick, is because I think that because of how specific Eminem songs are, Ice Cube and stuff, they'll get in your head and then they annoy you pretty fast if you listen to them too much. So all 5 of mine I own on vinyl.
Interesting. Okay.
I listen to them extremely regularly, and my wife brought up a good point. She's like, none of these are in your top Spotify listens. Started thinking about that, and it's because I go to the album on vinyl. And that's how I listen to them, because I'm like, when I put it on, I want the whole thing front to back. So I've also seen 4 out of 5 of these artists, the first one just due to not being alive, but I've seen all 4 of them multiple times in concert. So going from there, I'll start with the one
I have a comment on your vinyl collection here, which is that is the vehicle that is best to listen to albums front to back. You've said it a couple times here. You want to be able to drop the needle anywhere on the album and just pick right in. And I think that's such a vinyl exclusive way to listen. I'm wondering about your Spotify listens, how none of these are in your top. So do you listen outside of the home? Like you must have, I mean, you're wearing headphones right now. You must listen in the car, on walks, things like that.
Yeah, all the time.
So do you find yourself listening to other things on Spotify on your headphones when you're out of the house because you have those albums at home and you have those at home and you want to listen at home on vinyl and you want to branch out, or what's the deal?
Typically, if I'm out and about, like let's say I'm working out or even going for like a long drive and stuff, I want a mix. And I want a mood, and that mood might be like I just need a taste of metal, and I put on a metal playlist just to mix it up from artist to artist. I also find like a lot of times if I'm in that mood for metal, I can't just do one artist where I'm like, okay, it's all starting to sound very similar to itself, so I need to break it up. So yeah, I don't know what it is. All of these though, front to back, when I throw them on vinyl, I'm like, oh, that gives me what I'm looking for. And when I'm in the car, I'm like, no, I got it waiting at home. I'm going to do something different while I'm in the car or out walking.
Interesting. Yeah, when I'm by myself, I'm typically listening to podcasts or audiobooks. So I find that a lot of the time when I'm listening to music, it's with other people around. So I think there's some need to satisfy the mass appeal of everyone in the room as well. That goes into some of my music listening habits.
For sure. Like, a lot of times, you know how often me and my wife are together. Like, we have my Spotify playing, and it's a lot of her music,
Totally.
right? So
Yep.
we're just going to own it. The number one listened to song last year for
Taylor
me
Swift.
was...
Taylor Swift. Yeah.
No, it's worse. Was Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter.
Oh, okay.
So if that doesn't tell you that it's usually because I'm satisfying the masses, if you want to use that one,
Marty
that's
loves
why.
Sabrina,
So
huh?
he does, yeah, for sure. All right. So first pick here is 1959's Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers Moanin'. Originally titled just Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers. It actually renamed after the first track on their Moanin', which is like an 8 or 9 minute jazz riff. Look, I picked this one because first off, I absolutely love jazz music. I love going to jazz clubs. I like that as a live music. Anytime I can get it, I capitalize on that. I don't think that modern jazz holds up to, kind of classic jazz. But all of those things tossed aside, I wanted an album that I can just keep looping. If you're alone on an island, it's gonna be very quiet, and we all live in the city, so I'm used to noise, and I just need like white noise in the background. This is something you just keep looping, and you don't feel like you're hearing the same songs over and over and over again. Alex, that's why I told you go do chores while you're listening to it, because I think it'll help explain it as just having the ambiance on at all times. So
Yeah, and I did exactly that, and chores fucking suck, and it made them suck a little bit less.
Yeah.
did you enjoy it?
I loved it. This is my favorite pick of yours.
Really?
Yes.
Did you give it a go, Mitch?
I am going to agree with Alex. This is my favorite pick of yours as well, too. I mean, clearly I have a little bit of a taste for jazz and, like, the Tom Misch that I picked as well, too, but I've never really, like, dived super deep into it. In this similar vein, I had this on when I was working all week, and it was, like, great. I mean, my ADHD brain was a great distraction to be able to pull in different directions and feel like I can work through a lot. I will say I'm not as up on jazz in maybe the way that I should be, so it felt like I couldn't probably discern a lot of this from other types of jazz that I'd heard in the past, but like loved it from front to back. It's great as not background noise, but like, I'm choosing my words carefully. It's great in the background, and then when you want to tune into it, it's fantastic on top of that as well too.
Yeah, and I think that as I look at all of these albums, for me, they're very listenable. But if I'm going to have a party on my desert island and some of my buddies come to shore and I've got 5 albums to pick from, like, you can just have Moanin' on and it just plays well for everybody. So
Sure.
Yeah, great pre-party, during party, and post-party music.
that's it.
You've got to mow all that sand for all the visitors you have coming to this desert island.
Yeah,
So,
shovel a nice path.
Exactly. I do have a trivia question for you guys about this as well. So Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers released how many studio albums between 1956 and 1990 when they were a band?
Oh shit, it's like
It's a
50.
lot, yeah.
It's so many. It's
Take a
like
guess.
Prince.
Take a guess.
60.
Okay.
I'm gonna. Oh man, going to say 47.
It is 47 on the nose.
No, you looked. He's got it. I can see it on his monitor. He's got it.
Yeah, wild stuff. It was one that I was looking up, and I was like, holy crap, there's a lot of music in between that period. I guess when you do the math, it is like 50 years. It's like an album a year, but like still
That's
crazy.
a lot. That's
Still
working.
A lot. That's a
work.
lot. And then they have a ton of live albums and other like stuff they're recording for. It's like that is a ton of work that's going into that as well.
Yeah. It's, not a shocking statement to say these people lived and breathed music, but
Yeah.
between releasing these albums and probably playing clubs and venues
Yeah.
nonstop, that's their life.
Yeah.
That's their life's works.
Yeah, it was something like I think it was close to something like 70 something releases in total from over that period of time.
When I think about being able to see them, in the flesh, in kind of the prime, the golden age of jazz, how excellent would that be? Like, you guys have been in clubs where there's jazz on from a live band. It's kind of a small venue. Just really transports you in time, and I think makes for rich conversation, at least for me when I'm in settings like that. I don't want to be on my phone. I want to be super in the moment. So
Yeah.
All right.
Great pick.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Next couple of picks might shock some people, but 2015 album by Dawes called All Your Favorite Bands. And this is the band's fourth album. I'm a big Dawes fan, but this album in particular, I think it's high moments the whole way through, and it really peaks at what my favorite song on the album is, I Can't Think About It Now. And if you guys were paying attention to the lyrics in that, there's always so much going on, and there's distractions in media, and what are we supposed to do this? And it's really kind of talking about like man's ability to all these things. I don't know what to do. I can't think about it now. I need to focus on me and what I'm doing. And it kind of talks about like that narrow vision that a lot of us have, just day in and day out, of just trying to get through life. But I'll also say the title track, All Your Favorite Bands, is just an exceptional song on there as well. I think that's kind of a beautiful thing. That song is about, you're my friend and I want the best for you. And he makes the comments, I hope all your favorite bands stay together. And I'm just like, this is kind of like a nice fucking thing to say to somebody, right? Like, I don't want you to lose your favorite music. So many of us have had great artists ripped away from us, right, due to drugs and breaking up and egos and this and that. And it's like, just a nice well wish. I want them all to stay together for you. So,
Is Dawes still together? Are they still releasing music?
They are, yes.
Good.
That's Mr. Mandy Moore is their lead singer. So
Wow, she upgraded from Ryan Adams, huh?
huge upgrade for sure. And I'd say that to his face.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Ladies and
it's-
gentlemen, Ryan Adams.
oh, come on in, Ryan.
Oi, so I'm a big fucking idiot. Is he British?
I don't know. He is now. So.
He is now, so I think that works. So anyway, I think it's a songwriter's album. The best part of this for sure is the lyrics on the album, and it never really peaks or valleys. It just kind of holds, all the way through. So
Yeah, I agree.
Curious to
I
get your
think
takes.
lyrically, it's where it stands out. Musically, I was listening again this morning, and the guitar was surprisingly good. He shreds for a while, but I think the lyrics are definitely where it stands out. Like you said, all your favorite bands. Thinking about it in the inverse, if you really wanted to stick the knife in someone, I hope all your favorite bands break up is such a cutting.
It's a great,
thing
great.
to say.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
disband
Yeah.
Yeah.
as opposed to that band.
Yeah.
Mitch, any thoughts on it? Did you listen to it? Did you enjoy it?
I did
you
listen
not
to
like it?
I did enjoy it. I had heard of Dawes before. I'd never really given them a fair shot. It wasn't my favorite of your picks, but I really liked it more than I expected it to, given how I'm usually not drawn to more folky music overall. I would want to give more of their stuff a shot and go back through and see what else of theirs I like, because I feel like they're ones that always tour and always putting on good shows, and other friends have talked about. I've just never really given it its fair consideration, but definitely enjoyed it overall.
Yeah, this album's a pretty good take on like their whole library. It's all going to be pretty similar to that.
Yeah.
What I really enjoyed about the band themselves is you kind of know what you're going to get,
Yeah.
right? Like just cool music, go hang. They're awesome live,
Yeah.
but this album in particular kind of captures all of that
Cool.
for me. So
There is one Dawes song that I hear all the time right now for some reason. A little bit of everything. Cannot stand that song.
That's an old song of theirs too. Like it's on one of their first one or two albums.
Okay, it might be Megan's playlist. It just keeps popping up for whatever reason. But something about that song, it just rubs me the wrong way.
It's depressing.
Yeah,
it's a
it
very
is.
depressing song.
And I mean,
it starts off with a guy like about to punt himself off the side of the Golden Gate Bridge.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then they list a bunch of foods that's in a buffet and call it a day.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough.
All right. Let's move on to my next pick out of 2018. Oh, I didn't tell you on either of the last two, and I know this was an important thing that you threw at us. So, first time I heard either of these, full transparency, I couldn't tell you on Art Blakey
That's fair.
first time I heard that. I've been listening to that album for years, and when I was in San Diego, I finally bought it on vinyl, but I had been listening to it a long time, so I couldn't tell you. 2015 is when that album came out. Bought it unheard, just because I liked the band, and it's held up and been full rotation since I got it.
Nice.
And the next one's kind of a bit more of an interesting story than those two. So this is 2018 Casey Musgrave's album Golden Hour.
Go ahead, please.
I'm
excited.
You got thoughts.
I love this
coming.
album. I love Casey Musgraves. This is a great choice.
Okay, so this I call a masterpiece of emotion from front to back, because I think that there's songs in here that are silly. There are songs in here that like really cause your stomach to drop out just in like how you feel about life.
Yeah.
You know, I think for me, there's two moments on this that really capture that. It's "Oh What a World," and just the way that she writes about some of the stuff we see while we're alive. And we talked about being strong lyrics on the last album. I think that Casey's writing on this album is just at its absolute best. The other one's "Happy and Sad," and this is one of those songs that I think we've all been in that. It's like, how can I be like at my bottom and also like feel so good in this moment? And I don't want to get all like too far off in that piece, but like the first time that I heard this album was before the album released. We saw, me and my wife saw Casey open up for who's that guy from One Direction?
Harry Styles.
Harry Styles. So he was on tour for his first album. She opened for him, and I heard "Happy and Sad" at what I would say is kind of a low moment. And I was so happy at that concert. There's so much joy, and those lyrics just talk to me. So again, front to back on this whole album, no skips for me. And of everything on this list, it's probably the second most listened to album that I own.
Wow.
Okay. Wow. Wouldn't expect that part.
So, curious thoughts. I know, Mitch, you said you love the pick, but like, let's hear it.
Yeah, I love this album. I love Casey Musgraves. This is another good genre blending album for me that kind of has me towing a little bit closer to country. I mean, there are definitely very country songs on here, but I think she shines as a songwriter, kind of like you mentioned. It's just really fun. She's also one of my celebrity crushes, partially because of this album. I think front to back it's great. This is another one that I have as on rotation when I'm cleaning or doing something, is kind of a background that I can tune out because it sounds sonically great, and then tune into it when I want to like actually feel what's going on in the moment too.
And personally, for me, Casey's my favorite female songwriter.
Yeah.
Maybe not the strongest vocalist out there. I mean, there's so much talent out there, but like the way she works with what she's got, I think it's just so solid.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't want to yuck your yum, but this was
No
probably
yucking.
my least favorite of your picks.
All right.
I think it's a lovely album. I would agree with you. I think it does shine more lyrically than Casey's voice in particular, and just the way I listen to music personally, I'm more drawn to feelings and the emotion that comes from the sound as opposed to necessarily what's being said. So I know I'm maybe a little unique in that, and we'll talk about that a little bit more when I make my picks, and you can give me a little therapy. But I thought this was a lovely album. I'm gonna have to dig into Casey Musgraves a little bit more.
Separate quick note on this one as well. This is tied with Run the Jewels 2 as the second highest Metacritic rating out of all of our choices as well too.
Oh, really?
89 out of
You
100.
did the work.
Yeah.
I definitely did not pick Metacritic.
I got you. Don't you worry. But yeah, second highest rating of the ratings that I could find as well too. So
Very good.
commercially very successful, very highly.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I like to hear that.
Yeah.
All right, next pick, 2017 from the band Dispatch, America Location 12. If you're not familiar with Dispatch, very indie rock type band. They actually, I don't know if they still hold the record, but they did up until recently for largest indie band to sell out, or the biggest crowd to show up to one of their shows.
Huh.
This is
Where was that show? Do you know?
it's probably Boston. They're out of Boston, so I'm gonna imagine it was something out there. But
Some outdoor show probably where.
almost certainly
Yeah.
where they could really have space. This is their 6th album, and contrary to what a lot of like loyalists to the band say, I think this is their best album hands down. I specifically like this album because I think it's for, the drifter, vagabond, nomad, like person that's out there to seek beyond quote unquote normal or everyday life. Kicks off with tracks like Be Gone and Only the Wild Ones. I think that really breathes life into the album right out of the gate and sets the tone for adventure. For me, Curse and Crush, as well as Rice Water, are like where the pinnacles are of this album. Rice Water is actually one of my favorite all-time songs that comes off this album. And I put this one on like 3 times over the last week. Just like, am I sure? Like, I want another kind of indie band on my list. I'm like, it just doesn't quit for me. Yeah. So, yeah, I have no notes on the perfection of this of this album.
Yeah, I mean, this is great. I love indie music as well. I have a couple picks on my list too, so I don't think you can go wrong necessarily with like alt rock indie music. It's kind of goes with any mood I'm in. I can find something to listen to, and I never really get tired of it.
Yeah. I'm going to throw the controversial one here. This is probably my least favorite of your picks overall. I don't really like jammy-esque bands, and Dispatch fits very much into that bucket for me. I'm not a fan of like the OARs and the Dave Matthews, and even though I think this is different from what I had in my head of Dispatch, it still kind of fits into that bucket for me, and I just can't quite get into it.
I like that. I like that response.
It's no Fish.
Yeah, they're not even close to what Fish is, and I despise Fish as well too. But
I actually hate Fish and OAR. I'm not a big Dave guy either, so.
And then again, I think that's just more of how I associate this type of. It's not quite that far, but it is along those lines, and I just couldn't get into it in the way that I think maybe you could. I know they have a cult following, kind of like you mentioned, so it sounds like this is one that will appeal to people that want to dive into kind of that following or that type of music. I got halfway through and I'm like, all right, I get the point of what this is at a certain point.
Yeah, because it's pretty consistent all the way through, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so first time I listened to this was right around the year that it came out. Probably heard Only the Wild Ones would be my guess off of it first. Okay. Saw him on tour for this album, all of that stuff. But this album felt, when it came out to me, like, Justin, go do some shit with your life. Yeah. Don't just sit at your desk and wait to die at it. So definitely holds a place for me to get out there and move. So.
Yeah.
It's great for desert island listening, I think.
Yeah, because you got to be inspired to not just sit around and
try to get the fuck off the
starve off of coconuts. This is it says "Be Gone" right out of the gate, so get going.
Fun fact: "Only the Wild Ones" is Dispatch's highest charting song in their history as well too. It reached in the top 20 on the radio.
That shocks me. Yeah, interesting. I love it, but didn't know that. Yeah. Thanks, Mitch.
Sure.
You got the encyclopedia over there?
Something like that.
Yeah, all right. All right, my final pick. I'm going to take you back in time to 1977. And Alex, I believe one of your picks is from 1977 as well.
Big year for us.
It was, yeah, for sure.
We're not alive yet, but big year for you guys overall. Yeah.
So I really, really want to get both of your takes on this album because this is actually my all-time favorite album.
Okay.
At the beginning of this whole conversation, we said this is not an album or 5 of our favorite picks, right? But this just happens to always be on for me. It doesn't miss from front to back, and that is Billy Joel's "The Stranger." I can drop the pin on it anywhere and be totally happy. The second song, which is the title track, "The Stranger," the way he starts off with that whistle that brings you into the moment, and then it changes the whole vibe of the album. then he whistles you out the same way to round out the album. I think it's pure genius. Scenes from an Italian Restaurant in Vienna are a couple of the like big tracks on it. I think that like charted and are regular listens. And what's interesting about this pick to me is it kind of goes against why I cut so many other albums out, because it's got songs on there that you're like, I know this, I've heard it so many times, but with the album, like they work to me, so it flows all the way through and I don't really get sick of them. And then I think it just has one of the best lines ever written in music that relates to me and just how I live, and that's, I'd rather laugh with the sinners than cry with the saints.
Great line.
Sinners,
Great line, yeah.
The sinners are much more fun.
Yeah.
So it all hits, and I'm curious to get your takes.
Yeah, I will say historically, I've not been a big Billy Joel fan. I think growing up, my parents never really listened to him in a notable way, maybe a couple songs here or there. I love this album. I had not listened to it the full way through. This is great. This has changed my, I wouldn't say changed my love of Billy Joel, but it has put him in a new light for me as well. It also helps that all of my favorite Billy Joel songs are basically from this album as well too. Like that was a huge help getting it. Like Moving Out is one of my favorite Billy Joel songs. Only the Good Die Young is also one of my favorite Billy Joel songs. So it was nice to hear that together and like hear him musically put things together in a way that I'd never heard before as well too. So,
and I think with this, more than any of, I think other than one pick, which we haven't gotten to yet, of all of ours, I think that the arrangement of this album is perfect.
Yeah.
You know, it's a storyteller's album. From end to end.
Totally.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Mitch. I was in kind of the same boat, not a huge Billy Joel head, and then listen to this, and hardly any skips. I think you're right. I think he's got all his best stuff right here.
Yep.
So this is a huge accomplishment for him. One of the greatest albums of the '70s, I think. So good pick. I have a question for you. So I know you said favorite album of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Hardly any skips. So say your CD gets some sand on it, gets a little scratched. You only get 3 tracks.
Oh, I love that question.
What do you got?
I go with The Stranger. I go with Scenes from an Italian Restaurant.
Okay.
And because I want, if I'm only getting a little bit, I want the longest one.
Okay.
And then Only the Good Die Young.
Okay.
Because I gotta have a pickup in there too. So I will tell you finally, unless you had one more question on that.
No.
I was just going to comment the first time that I heard it. So like you guys both said you didn't grow up with Billy Joel, and I did. Like my mom listened to it a lot. River of Dreams was one of my, like when it came out when I was like 9 or 10 years old, and I could not wait for it to come on the radio. Then I got into Stormfront, which had like We Didn't Start the Fire on it, and I'm like, man, this guy is everything. And I almost worked my way backward into his catalog. And for like my 10th or 11th birthday, my mom got me Billy Joel's Greatest Hits, which was a double disc, and I wore the thing out because it was just on repeat so much. But I didn't hear the Stranger album until around 2015 when I bought my first record player.
Wow, okay.
And yeah, it was one of the first vinyls that we got, and I'm so glad we did because it's just my favorite.
Did you say you were 10 or 11 when you got that Greatest Hits album?
Yeah, I think it was something around there.
Any of your friends rocking to Billy Joel?
No,
Yeah.
no. So funny, like it was around the same time. Like I would have got like Nirvana, Nevermind, or In Utero, somewhere in that time, right? Yeah. So, yeah, it just happened to be in the catalog for my whole life. So
Cool.
Yeah, that's great. Great picks on your 3. I gotta say, I think if I had to skip one song, it might be Scenes from an Italian Restaurant. I know I'm losing some minutes. It just, I don't know, it doesn't hit me the way the other stuff does.
So I love that you say that. I think most people are in that boat.
Okay.
Because of the length, and they're like, okay, I get where he's going with this one.
Yeah.
I want to move on. I'm like, no, I want the whole thing. And this probably will speak to all of our listeners where they're like, okay, this guy's a freaking sadistic monster. I love requesting it at dueling pianos with like like $30 or $40.
Yeah. Like, you're going to play this, damn it.
Yeah.
You're putting this on.
Enough money that'll like actually get him going.
Do it,
and I've seen a woman absolutely shred the face off the song because
Cool.
she compressed it into like 4 minutes, playing a faster piano and version of this song than I've ever seen. It was killer.
That's amazing. I was on a walk listening to this, and I kind of got the gist of it, and I was like, okay, this is still the same song. And I looked at my phone. It's like, there's still 2 minutes left?
Yes, it is. Yes,
Wow.
it is.
Wow.
It's good.
So, go ahead.
I was going to say, I have a question for you guys. This is Billy Joel's best-selling album to date. How many copies of this album has he sold?
50 million.
I probably would have been like the 22 million area.
12.2 million.
Well,
Okay,
we overshot
I have
that.
no idea. Price is Right rules, right?
Also, again, was kind of doing some research about. I knew Billy Joel a little bit. Was doing some research and came across an interview with him where he said he went to Woodstock, but he left like the original Woodstock, but left early because of the lack of toilets and the toilet situation. The full quote for the
Gotta
interview.
go, you gotta go.
You gotta go. Right. In full quote with Entertainment Weekly, he said, "Quote: I went to Woodstock. I didn't play there, but I went up on a motorcycle, which was a good move because the highway was a parking lot. I wanted to see Hendrix and the Who, but after a day and a half with no real toilet facilities, what am I, a bear? I have to go in the woods. I'm going home."
That's amazing. I love that he went there just as a fan.
Right.
That's amazing.
Right.
When he's a New York City,
Yeah.
like born, raised, will die. He doesn't want to be out in the woods.
Right.
So like I think that fully tracks, and I love it so much.
Yeah, I love the idea of like I'm going to this like the biggest music festival to date at this point in time, but like I have to take a crap in a porta potty or whatever. No, I'm not doing it.
There's a line.
I respect that and I understand that as well too. I'm not going to music festivals where I have to go in a porta potty at this point.
Right. That's why you don't camp, huh?
Exactly. Yes.
So any other thoughts, or
I have
that
a-
kind of wraps it for me? Otherwise,
Okay, I have a question for both of you. Actually, do you have any musical background yourselves, and did that influence any of your picks?
That's a good question. Yeah, I grew up playing guitar, piano. I played trumpet up through middle school, freshman
Okay.
year, middle school. My dad played the drums. He taught me to play a little bit. Can play bass as well too.
You're a
It's
multi-instrumentalist. I didn't know this.
Not picked it up in any way, shape, or form. But if you give me a guitar, put me in front of a piano for like an hour, it'll come back to some extent as well. So,
Okay. Any picks that you made that kind of scratched that itch for you a little bit?
That's a good question. I think I want to be Tom Misch in some way, shape, or form, in the sense that I can play every single instrument perfectly and play jazz. But
instead you're just Mitch.
Instead, I'm just Mitch, and I'm pretending that I can do all that. Yeah, I mean, maybe like subconsciously, I think all of it's there. Like again, to the point, like the only probably one album that doesn't have traditional drums or guitars coming through is like Run the Jewels 2, and that it's produced, and there's probably some sounds there. But everything else is like, again, bluesy or disco or Americana / folky, if you will. So yeah, probably in some subconscious way for sure. Yeah.
I didn't know that about you and all those. So I used to play guitar, mostly self-taught, so it wasn't ever very good. And then tried playing the drums, but turns out I have no rhythm for it.
It's kind of a crucial first step.
Yeah, and it's bad. I can't get like basic beats down. If you start snapping to a song, I'm usually like 4 seconds ahead of everyone else by the end of the song. So I just don't have the gift. So I would say that without that gift, yes, it does influence some of my picks because of my love for jazz, my love for piano and guitars. Like I think across the board, it's scratching the itch of, man, I wish I had the talent. I just don't.
Yeah.
So, and I'm at peace with it.
Fair enough.
And
How about you?
You're taking piano lessons right now.
I am, yeah. I've been taking them for a little while. It's slow going. Holy shit, it's hard. But yeah, picking stuff up for a while. It's interesting. When I was a kid, my parents offered to give me piano lessons or have me go to piano lessons, and my sister went to piano lessons for a long time, and I had no interest. And then in middle school, started playing the trumpet and really liked making music, and then was the drummer in a band in high school, and always kind of wished I had taken piano lessons and learned the piano back in the day. So finally I am kind of jumping back on that horse.
Before we take a break, what was your band's name in high school?
It's some good stories here. We were called Sorry We're Not From Canada.
Okay. Great.
Yes.
Great.
Yes. All self-taught
Yeah.
and awful, but I went to a high school of about 400 to 500 people, so we were the only show in town.
Okay. Yeah.
And shows we played, we we played.
Nothing like a captive audience to get your band off
Right?
the ground.
Thank you. Our first show, if you don't mind me going off on a little tangent here.
Please.
Little sorry we're not from Canada history. We played in the Jake Barker Underground,
Okay.
which was our bass player Jake's basement at his parents' house. And we were not expecting much, but probably like 100 people
Holy
were in
crap.
there. And the first song, everyone was so loud, I couldn't hear my key to like jump in on the drums. So I was just like, fuck it, I'm going now. There are people crowd surfing
Amazing. What?
in his basement
What?
with like all of our parents lined up on the back wall monitoring us because we're like 16 years
Yeah,
old.
sure.
And it was nuts. And then our second and biggest show, we rented out a small town gym and played on the stage for probably like 200 to 300 people.
Holy crap.
All students in our high school. And again, we were bad.
Yeah.
But the only show in town. And
Hey.
it was that we thought at that moment we were like, oh my God, we're gonna be rock stars.
Yeah.
And that we peaked.
Is that a great band name too, though? The
that-
only show in town.
I like
It's not
it.
bad.
I do like it.
I kind of dig that.
It's not bad.
It beats mine. I would have been Tooth, because I always thought it would have been sick to be like in a metal band and please welcome Tooth. Like, could have been awesome.
Not the human metronome.
No.
Okay.
But that's probably more accurate.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, Mitch.
With that, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. And we're back. Welcome back to the Desert Island Podcast. For those that are just jumping in now, I don't know why you would. We have gone through mine and Justin's picks. We're going to take it over to Alex. Alex, you have some really great choices in here. Excited to jump into this, so we'll hand the reins over to you.
Yeah, I actually always jump into podcasts an hour and 15 minutes in. So
Why would you not,
that
right?
makes sense.
Why would you
yeah,
not? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so
Getting carried away with that skip or forward button. A little too much to skip all the ads,
Yeah.
right?
exactly.
Most podcast players have a 5-minute skip ahead in the button
Yeah,
as
plus
well,
30
too.
seconds.
Yeah.
Okay, Justin, you left off with Billy Joel's "The Stranger" from 1977, and I'm gonna pick up right where you left off in 1977 with Fleetwood Mac's "Rumors." I think this has a case to the title of best album of all time. I think this is, at least in my mind, hands down the best album of the last 50 years. I know we all had dozens of iterations of our top 5 picks here going through when we were making these picks this week, except for this. This was always here. It's always the album I come back to as when I get the question favorite album of all time. This album is just fantastic front to back. And it's got some nostalgia too. So I used to when I was young. Couldn't get into classic rock because all my dad listened to, he had his little radio in his workshop and it was always tuned to classic rock. I would do errands with him in his 1984 Toyota pickup that had a cassette player and a radio. It was always classic rock. It wasn't until I heard Stevie Nicks that I really started to appreciate the sounds of the 60s and 70s. She is my favorite voice of all time, and I think the only knock I have on this album is that there's too many other singers. She doesn't have enough where she's leading the way. This album has 11 tracks. They're all amazing, and then there's this song Silver Springs, which was actually left off this album in reissues. It was included. And it's kind of included now in Spotify and a bunch of track listings. So if I'm getting Silver Springs, then that just is icing on the cake. I know you both, Justin specifically, I know you love this album too.
I do also have it on vinyl, and it was a close contender to making my list. The only other female singer on all these lists, like Mitch, is
So far.
Definitely has a flair for male vocalists. So, all right. So you made a comment that this is up there for greatest album of all time.
Yes.
This blew my mind. I learned this past week about Rumors. in 2024, the top 10 selling vinyls, okay? 5 of those top 10 spots were occupied by Taylor Swift. Then you had Billie Eilish, Chappell Roan, Sabrina Carpenter, and Olivia Rodrigo. In the 9th spot was 1977's
Yes.
Rumors.
Wow.
I mean, that is something I think that kind of validates what you're talking about. People still think about going out and getting this album, but if we all already own it, who could still be buying it? It's transcending generations, right? Like, people that are out there still buying vinyl are still hunting down Rumors, and I think that just speaks to the lasting impact of how good this album was.
100%. I think if I'm looking at all of my choices in 50 years, while Rumors is the oldest by decades, it's still going to be the one that holds up best. I think it's timeless.
I agree with you. I think it's one of the best picks of the lists, all 3.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, jumping over to me, this was on my top 10. It was one that it probably wasn't going to make it into my top 5, but I do love this album. Front to back, it's great. It's like all high notes. Nothing is bad. It is fantastic all around. It is the highest rated album of all of our choices. It is a 99 out of 100.
I saw it had a perfect 10 on Pitchfork.
Yeah. I mean,
I thought you said it was Run the Jewels too.
So I said Run the Jewels 2 was the second highest.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
But yeah, Metacritic 99 out of 100, which is that's a crazy rating to have on there overall. Yeah, for me, this is an album that, again, my dad had on rotation when I was a kid, and one that I didn't get sick of as well. I kind of, hear me out what I'm about to say. This sounds like it's off the walls, but bear with me. They're kind of, Fleetwood Mac in my mind is kind of like the Red Hot Chili Peppers in the sense that, bear with me. They are definitive of an era, and no one else sounds like them at any point in time. There's no one in my mind that sounds like Fleetwood Mac in the way that Fleetwood Mac does, in the sense that no one like the Red Hot Chili Peppers no one out there sounds like the Red Hot Chili Peppers at any point in time.
Yeah.
They are musically very different, and Fleetwood Mac is infinitely more talented.
No, you landed the plane on that one.
Yeah,
That
want to
was-
make sure.
honestly, that's
Yes,
good.
yeah.
I was coming in sideways there, but you got it.
That's a testament to them, and part of the reason why I think they hold up so well is they just are so unique, and that is cut through, especially in an era in the late 70s when, like, you have your Zeppelins and REO Speedwagons and everyone that is this like very male-driven machismo hard rock sound, where they definitely capture that, but there's a lot of balance in Stevie singing and everything else that's written on there as well too. So
What's remarkable about it, like to Mitch's point about the era, right? Like, it was dominated by Zeppelin and like even bands like The Doors and stuff like that. Like, it felt all like so drug infused, right? For how the music was coming across. I get sick of all of those bands. Like, none of those. Even if I like an album, like Led Zeppelin 2 it's iconic, right? I get sick of it very, very fast. I get sick of The Doors. I get sick of you mentioned REO. Like, I like REO, but I get sick of their music. And Rumors just always slaps all the way.
it works.
Front to back.
It does, and it's appreciated now, and it was even appreciated in its time too. Like, this won Album of the Year in 1978.
Yeah, which it should.
So why do you think? I mean, I don't know a better word to use than resurgence. Why do you think it's continuing to hit new generations? Is it TikTok and the way they're using some of the songs across that platform? Why does it work?
I can't speak to TikTok, but I think a lot of the songs on this album are widely used outside of like radio play. So you're hearing it in commercials. You're hearing it, in a bunch of different places. There's snippets of all these songs that are pretty iconic as a standalone. So yeah, I mean, the way the youths consume audio these days, I have to imagine that this kind of fills in and hits those spots for them.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And again, I think there will always be a sense of nostalgia that comes around in some way, shape, or form, especially as we get, as artists and influence other artists who ultimately disappear. There's always a sense of how do we go back to the source and figure out where this originally came from. But I think Fleetwood Mac is a good starting point. I don't know that I think this is a bigger conversation. I agree that this album will last for a very long period of time. I firmly believe that no music will last forever, and the best you can do is interpolate to the next generation. But this is a good frontrunner for like one that could last longer than would expect it to as well. In a similar type of sidebar, I have question for you both. So Bill Hader played Lindsey Buckingham in a recurring sketch on SNL called "What's Up with That?" If you guys remember, it's a talk show hosted by Keenan Thompson, who basically like it has a different celebrity on, and he can't get through all the guests because every time the celebrity says something that's on, he breaks out into song and it keeps going. And Bill Hader plays Lindsey Buckingham and basically is always the third guest that he never gets to, and he plays him over and over and over again, and it's a very funny. So do you guys have any favorite I don't want to say musical SNL sketches, but any kind of like what's a sketch that's musically you associate with SNL that you really like?
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
That's DeAndre Cole,
Yep, that's
who
right.
my fantasy football team is named after,
Amazing,
because
yeah.
I think that's Keenan's best work.
Yeah.
So that one stands out very heavy in my mind. It's got Jason Sudeikis
Just
in
dancing,
in the tracksuit,
Yep.
dancing to
Yeah.
"What's Up with That." So that's
Kyle-
one of my favorites all time.
I think Kyle Mooney's playing clarinet in the background like a
Yeah,
Kenny G
yeah,
as well
yeah.
too. So
It's so good.
Yeah.
I gotta say Justin Timberlake's work
Yeah.
in everything with Andy Samberg and Lonely
Yeah.
Island guys, iconic.
Yeah, I would agree. I feel like Lazy Sunday is up there for me as one of my favorite like SNL musical sketches out there as well too.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. I guess Justin Timberlake wasn't in what he didn't do.
No, but I think that counts for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say I'm on a boat. That was
Lonely Island. Yeah.
That was Halloween costumes were that
it wasn't.
that year. Like that was
I mean that and Dick in a Box or two
Right.
was just as things as well too.
Yeah.
Those were also Halloween costumes too. But
yeah.
Or the work he does with like Jimmy Fallon on like
Yes.
vegan.
Yeah, yeah.
Bring it on down to Veganville.
Yeah.
You know which one that is,
Yeah.
right?
The mascot. or
So
whatever.
good.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, back to Rumors. This is such a heartbreaking album too. All the members were kind of breaking up with each other
Yeah.
during the production of this album, and I think that carries the songwriting. It's some of the best songwriting, and the emotion in the music as well. It just really carries through. That helps. I'm very sorry for all of them and what they were going through, but thank God for that.
For sure. Again, it's one of those times where tragic in the moment, and hopefully they're able to look back on it and say like we got something kind of perfect that came out of this terrible situation at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. Do either of you have a favorite track from this album?
I was gonna say Dreams, but I'm gonna go my own way. Go Your Own Way is my favorite on there.
I was gonna say the same thing as well too. That's definitely my favorite. So that's the one I associate the most with this album overall. So
Yeah, I think The Chain is mine. It's
that's a good choice.
I mean,
Yeah.
I could go so many
There's
different
not a
ways.
bad
not a bad
pick.
pick.
No,
I
no,
mean,
no,
like
there's not.
if you have the track listing pulled up in Wikipedia, it looks like, and they're all blue. That means you can click on all
Yeah,
of them.
right.
So
There's a story behind all of them.
That's
They're all
true.
great.
That's
Yeah.
true.
exactly.
That's a
I
good
mean,
point.
there's not a wrong pick.
Yeah.
I feel like we could probably talk about
Yeah,
Fleetwood
we-
Mac for a while, so I'm gonna move on.
Sure.
So I'm doing these chronologically, so I'm jumping 20 some years here.
Sure.
To an album by my all-time favorite band, which is Spoon. And while thinking through this, I had probably 4 or 5 different Spoon albums in this slot at one point or another. And at one point, I thought maybe I wouldn't have any because I couldn't choose. And the thing I love about Spoon is every album that they put out is just very solid. It's always an 8 or a 9, and a Spoon album has such a high floor, you know. So I almost was like, okay, well, I'm not putting any 8s or 9s on my Desert Island list, so I'll skip Spoon altogether. But then I was like, no, what am I never going to listen to this band again? No, I have to have a Spoon album. So at the end of the day, I went with 2001's Girls Can Tell. This was not the one I expected to pick when I went into this assignment. I've always kind of leaned towards Gimme Fiction, which is also great, but going and listening through their discography again, this one's just better. It's really, really good. It's Britt Daniel, who is a wonderful singer-songwriter, and he's just got this kind of whiny voice that hits all the right notes. And like I said, it's always at least very good.
I only have one complaint about this album. It's that it's not longer.
36 minutes is pretty short.
It was a very quick listen because none of the songs are very long, and that's cool. But I wish they could have crammed in 5 or 6 more songs because I agree with you. I think this album is their best album. For me, loved Lines in the Suit.
Yes.
I think that song is just just so fucking good. And obviously everything hits at once is a pretty well known song of theirs, but Lions in the Suit is where this one really peaks for me. So
yeah, I think
great pick. I like this
I think
one.
Spoon is starting to get a little bit more mainstream with some of their newer stuff, which is very surprising to me. I don't know if that's just their longevity is kind of brute forced their way into more mainstream culture, but I think some of their older stuff is very excellent.
I had never really listened to Spoon before. I knew of them in some capacity. Had never really given them a shot or heard at any point in time. Before I go to my thoughts, I also want to call it, sorry, it's a little off the topic, Metacritic rating of 85 out of 100. So very highly regarded as well,
Great.
Considered universal acclaim. I loved
it just sounds like we all have great taste.
Yeah,
If Metacritic says so.
Yes.
So.
I loved it. I listened to it twice. It was awesome.
Cool.
This is
Yeah.
this is now on one of my favorite albums I listened to recently. Also very mad at myself for you idiot, you should have given this band a shot at some other point in time, because people have told me about them and they just never made their way into my radar. I don't know what I assumed about them and what they were as a preconceived notion and didn't give it a shot, but played it twice this week at work, kind of just again listening to it in the background and then giving it another shot as well too on top of that. Loved every minute of it.
So have you listened to other albums by them?
Not since then, no.
Okay.
Yeah, but one of those as well, kind of like with Dawes, with Justin, where I'm just like, okay, I want to go a little bit further and see what else is here and is there. So
Yeah. I mean, I would recommend going all the way back and,
Yeah.
and starting from the beginning. This album, this came out after they got dropped by their label, and
Yeah.
so they kind of, I would say this is the first album that kind of solidifies their current sound. They really found
Sure.
their lane on this album and have stuck through it throughout. Pretty much.
That makes sense. I was reading kind of some of the reviews of this album and some of their history as well too, and it seems like this is a very pivotal moment in their sound in
Yes.
terms of what they were trying to put forward and what they have at this point. So that makes a lot of sense as well.
Yeah, 100%. I got into Spoon my freshman year of college, so I think honestly a lot of my picks were kind of influenced by my transition from small town Nebraska high school to college, and where we had a server on our floor that everyone could kind of upload their music to, and then you could download or listen off this server, and it just really opened my eyes. I went from pretty Blink-182, Offspring, Green Day punk bullshit to music can be different than this. It can be much more thoughtful, and louder isn't always better.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Spoon is amazing. Britt Daniel's amazing. It ties in closely with my next pick, which is 2008's At Mount Zoomer by Wolf Parade. So before I talk in depth about this, and this is an album I can really talk a lot about. These two bands, they feel similar to me, and they have a similar vibe, and they always have. And then I believe in 2012, Britt Daniel from Spoon and Dan Bachner from Wolf Parade actually formed a supergroup. They formed Divine Fits. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Divine Fits. They put out one album. I was so hyped for it, and it was pretty good.
Okay.
Not amazing.
Yeah.
It was not equal to the sum of its parts, but it was a big Venn diagram, which was basically a circle between Spoon and Wolf Parade, which were at a time my top two favorite bands.
That's fair.
So, had you guys ever heard of Wolf Parade before this? I feel like this is probably the most obscure, out of left field pick that I have.
had not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Not on my list at all.
This is
On
my
radar.
first listen.
Okay. So this was their second album. Like I said, it came out in 2008. Their first album was also excellent, and this one feels a little bit more experimental. It feels like they're trying to be mainstream a little bit less. Every song is great. It's one of the few albums that I feel like the second half outshines the first half. I feel like that's kind of rare. Everyone kind of front loads, but the last 3 tracks on this album, Fine Young Cannibals, Animal in Your Care, and Kissing the Beehive, that accounts for over 21 minutes of this album. And I love a long song. All of these songs are very unique and kind of feel like there's multiple ideas or multiple songs within each song, and it's just a unique sound that I really love. It's got 2 lead singers as well, so you get some different vibes based on the track.
This wasn't my favorite.
Okay.
I think this is very similar. You're right. It's very similar to Spoon, and it feels very much of this of a genre that's the same, though a little bit more, I don't know, folky or something along those lines. I will say I didn't give this album a fair shot. This is the last album on my list to listen to this week, and work was just crazy, and I couldn't get the full way through of it as well too. But
yeah,
the first half of it was like it was fine. I didn't really have strong feelings about it.
I was afraid of that a little bit
Yeah.
because truly I'm picking this album for the second half.
That's fair. Yeah.
That's an important thing to know. So I will circle back on this one because I think the same thing happened to me as it did with Mitch. For no reason other than like I think I was about halfway through it, and I'm like, I'm losing steam on this one, and I let the whole thing play, but I wasn't really invested. And I struggle with an album like this if it's not going to suck me in early, to have it on my desert island, where I'd be like, okay, cool, that's the back half. But remember, for me, my drop the needle anywhere rule, I think it missed the mark, at least for me. So
Fair enough. Yeah, I do really like all of the tracks here, but if it's slow to pull you in, I get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't hate it. I just didn't feel strongly either direction.
it's not a cut into the quality of the album. I think it was just a thinking about it from a, could I do this on a desert island? It's a miss for me.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you're not invited then.
Yes, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
Everybody, he just stormed out of the room.
He's swimming.
He's gone now.
He's swimming off the island right
He's
now.
swimming to his next album.
Okay. Well, I'll see if I can reel you back in. I know I can reel Justin back in with this one. This is 2014's Ultraviolence by Lana Del Rey. It's her third studio album, and I feel like this is when she really found her voice, lyrically and sound-wise. This is definitely my favorite of hers, and I gotta say, I know I said Stevie Nicks has my favorite voice of all time earlier. I think Lana Del Rey has my second favorite voice of all time.
Wow.
She can hit all the notes. She's got this like breathy delivery that is it's so emotional, and really you can really feel what she's going through with a lot of these songs, and what she's going through is shit. It sucks.
Pain.
It's pain.
Yeah.
It's a lot of broken, failed relationships. It's, I think she's probably putting on a persona a little bit, but there's, domestic violence issues that she's talking about in some of these songs, ultraviolence specifically, which kind of brings me to a point that I wanted to make, which was, I think it how you listen to music is very important for how these picks are made. So I think I mentioned earlier, I'm much more about the sound and how the sound makes me feel, whereas I know a lot of people are much more interested lyrically. And I think this has something for both of those people. I think it's kind of the rare album that is has a lot for both. But what I wanted to ask you is, I know there's like parental advisory stickers for, saying the curse words and things like that. Do you think that musicians should be held to the same accountability levels as far as like TV movie makers? And I'm thinking even more specifically about video games. Like violent video games are killing our kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
What responsibility do musicians have when they're talking about the things that they're rapping about or singing about to their audience?
That's a really good question. I think they have no responsibility. I do not think art should be filtered in that capacity.
110% agree.
Like, you should be able to talk about and sing about whatever you want from a literal standpoint, from a interpretation standpoint, from an interpolation standpoint, from a hyperbole standpoint. If you're trying to convey something else, and your best way to convey it is through something that is seen as explicit or whatever else, and that's how it gets out there, I am 100% supportive of that. I don't think the artists owe society anything in that capacity.
Yeah, I 110% agree, and I think that's where the bullshit begins with all of this. Violent video games are causing kids to shoot up and whatever.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to get that out on the table because
Yeah.
I think that's it's important to know.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously agree with you both on that. I struggle with it because I remember, Marilyn Manson being vilified for Columbine. It's like, holy shit! Like this, he had nothing to do with
Totally.
any of that. It comes down to, as somebody without kids, it's easy for me to say, but
Sure.
it comes down to how you parent. And
Totally.
if you don't like the art, then you have to be the one to filter them. It is not up to the artist or the production company that produces it
Yep.
to censor it for your kids or for your listening. So
And that's parenting advice for all of you
Yeah,
parents
yeah.
out there
That's
as well.
our parenting corner. Okay, so this album has some of my favorite Lana Del Rey songs as well. West Coast is honestly one of my favorite songs of all time. We're talking about our musical abilities and how they affected our choices. And I think the drum beat in that, the intro drum beat, the da 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 da, that's something I play on my lap or my desk or whatever I have to hand every single time I hear that song.
Wow.
I think there's no skips here either. I think every song is at least like an 8 going up to like a 10 plus.
I love this album, front to back, and I think there are no skips on it. And here's where the controversy for me is: I wouldn't take this to a desert island. I mean, it is so emotional, and it is so like dug in a hole. If I'm on a desert island, I think I'm already there. And from a listenability standpoint, right? Like I don't know if I would want to put this one on ever. And what's unfair about that is the actual album is fire. It is so good, but it's in that category I talked about when I was talking about my picks, that I have to be in a mood for this one to be as special as it is.
Yeah.
So love the pick, love the album, just not for me on a desert island.
That's such a good point. And honestly, I'm rethinking not necessarily this one, but I've got some pretty emotional ones that still to come as well. I'm going to be feeling it. I'm going to be going through it on this island. So I'll either, become a better person, or I will, something bad's going to happen.
Yeah. I'm going to throw a controversial turn into here. I fucking hated this album. I
Whoa.
did not like this in any way, shape, or form. I had never really listened to Lana Del Rey before, besides West Coast and Summertime Sadness and the bigger songs that came up. This was a slog for me to get through. I think it's very depressing. Again,
It is.
She is like, I'm going to throw this out there. She's like a Bob Dylan, and then she's an amazing songwriter and is able to translate what she is feeling in a way that I think a lot of people can't. The music is incredibly depressing, and I just couldn't push through it in that way. I'd never listened to a full album of hers at any point in time, and I was like, I'm listening to all this because of the podcast, but I will never revisit this album again at any point in time.
Okay.
It was too slow for me. Maybe that's part of I don't want to bring this to a desert island. This is too slow for me. It's too depressing. I associated with her with being more poppy as well too. Because most of what I've heard of hers is on the radio and the bigger songs she's had as well, or maybe like remixes that artists have done of her. I just couldn't get into it. I didn't love it. Not for me by any means.
I think of all the 15 picks we're looking at, this one in my opinion would be like the hardest for anybody to take as a top 5 pick because of how much emotion is in this one and how certain place and time it is. Again, I disagree. I don't even disagree with you. It is a very slow, heavy album.
Yeah.
But I like that for certain points
Sure.
in time. It's just never going to be mine on an island. So.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's fair. Mitch, take it up with your man Dan Auerbach.
I was going to say he produced all this as well too. Yeah. As a separate note, this is our second lowest critically rated album out of all of them. It's a 74 out of 100.
What was the lowest?
Dawes, the All Your Favorite Bands, is 71 out of 100.
Okay.
What's considered a good score? I'm not familiar with Metacritic and their scoring system.
C's get degrees, right?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think again, if it's above, it is kind of on that grading system where if it's in the 70s, it's considered well received overall. I think when you get into the mid to high 80s is when it's universal acclaim and collectively. So
Okay. All right, we're going to continue the sadness train with my fifth and final pick, which is 2018's Swimming by Mac Miller.
Yep.
This was the last album he had come out while he was alive. He died about a month after this came out, which sucks. He's great. Mac Miller is widely played in our household. It's kind of good for anything.
Yeah.
This album's interesting. It's got some ups and downs. I think it's also very emotional, very sad. He was going through. I think this came out after his breakup with Ariana Grande, which was huge. I think she was hugely influential on some of his previous work. Lyrically, this is really interesting. He's going through it for sure. So I think I probably am not playing this and Ultraviolence back to back any days on the island.
It's a rough day on the island.
But this hits me right in the right spot. I think when I first heard this, I was coming back from a road trip. I don't know, Colorado, Montana, somewhere, and I think I listened to it 3 or 4 or 5 times in a row on the drive, and I was kind of blown away. I didn't know he had this in him. Are you guys big Mac Miller heads?
I like Mac Miller. Again, I listened to a lot of his stuff in college because timing-wise, that's when it was coming out as well, too. And I know a lot of the stuff, I should say his early stuff was coming out when I was in college. And, I liked him. Again, that type of hip-hop was really big for my college experience overall. So I really enjoyed him. I will say I hadn't really listened to this album front to back, so it was a good way to go through this and rediscover him again. So
this was my intro.
Nice.
Had not really listened to anything, not that I'm aware of anyway.
Yeah.
And it was fine. It was a good ride. I didn't nothing I was like itching to get to the next one, but also nothing that I was like that stands out in my memory as being a super high point. But I think overall, like front to back, it was a fun listen, and probably put it on again.
I think that's kind of a theme for some of my picks, which is not a lot of peaks and valleys. It's pretty consistent. It's not a ton of singles coming out of any of my picks, or you got Fleetwood Mac where every single one is a banger. But yeah, I think this is good or well consumed front to back as a whole.
Yeah.
Did you say the rating for this one?
Oh yeah, sorry. This is 78 out of 100 for this.
Yeah, okay.
That's pretty solid. Yeah.
So I want to have you do is you covered it on Rumors, but you didn't cover on any of the others the first time or where you were when you first heard them that drew you to them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this one.
Mitch set that rule very early. So when you do a comedy thing.
I'm not holding you to it, so this is also on me.
Yeah, like I said, I was coming back from, I think it was Montana. I was driving Montana to Seattle, and this had just come out, and so I put it on, and like I said, listened back to back to back. Ultraviolence, I don't know. I'd listened to Born to Die, her first album, quite a bit when it came out in 2012, something like that, and I was living in Lincoln, Nebraska, and not a lot to do besides listen to music and feel your emotions. And then Spoon and Wolf Parade were heavy rotation in college. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So, just to recap, I had Rumors, Girls Can Tell, At Mount Zoomer, Ultraviolence, and Swimming.
A couple of really good picks.
Yeah.
A couple of not so good picks, it sounds like.
Different strokes, my friend.
Different strokes, yeah.
Cool. And with that, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Welcome back.
There's the applause.
There's the
There we go.
applause.
There
Thank
we
you
go.
all for
We're back.
listening, making it this far into the recording. We appreciate it.
Should really figure out how to fade that thing out. Right?
Instead of
just comes to an
you
abrupt
probably
stop.
can. I think there's a way to do it. But we have made it through all 3 of ours Desert Island albums. There's a lot of different choices in here. I feel like overall we've hit all the corners of genres that are out there and had some surprises. So one of the questions I had for you guys as we wrap up is, as you look back through all of our lists, what's one surprise from everyone else's what's one album from all of the rest of ours that was a surprise that you didn't see coming? I can start because this is my question for everyone. With Justin, I was kind of surprised on the jazz end. I didn't know that you were a huge jazz fan or as big of a fan in that capacity, and I know part of that is obviously from a desert island standpoint, wanted to have that as a choice there. But I had no idea that you were that big of a jazz fan, which is actually pretty cool. And then Hubbard, I was kind of surprised by Mac Miller. That was another one that I didn't really see coming as well. I mean, I know we've talked about music a decent amount, but not someone that I would have put on your radar in that capacity. So
Yeah, fair enough. I'm going to look at this question in a slightly different way,
Sure.
in that none of your individual picks surprised me as picks that you would make necessarily. I was more surprised by how much I enjoyed them. Mitch, I got to go with Geography.
Yep.
Tom Misch for you. I never really listened to him and loved it. And Monin, Justin, great album. Love the jazz. I was very, very surprised by how much I liked both of those.
Yeah, that's fair.
Let's see here. Looking back at everything, Chulahoma, I think that one caught me off guard. I've never really... Run the Jewels was the one that was like, I knew it. I thought it might have a couple Run the Jewels albums on here, but the Black Keys, I've never heard you talk about them
fair.
or reference them, so that one surprised me. And then Ultra Violence, I think, was the one that shocked me. And I know I sent it back when you made your picks that like, hey, that album's excellent. Mean it. Still surprised that it's a pick for the Desert Island. So.
Yeah, honestly, fair. You got me rethinking. If I wasn't all over the place trying to put these five together, I'm second guessing myself even more now.
Yeah, fair. Well, that leads me to my second question here. It's a nice tee up. As a curveball for you guys, I'm going to give us all a chance to replace one album on here with your number 6 pick or whatever else didn't make it in. Curious what you would replace it with and why.
I'll go first.
Sure.
I would replace, this is probably going to have me kicked out of the group forever. I would replace Dispatch's America Location 12 with Lover by Taylor Swift.
That's a choice.
Whoa.
Okay.
Yeah, because first off, that's my favorite album of hers, but she's somebody, I listen to a lot of her music. Most of the time, it's kind of like sprinkled in other playlists and stuff like that. And I'm not a huge fan of all of her work, but I think that one is really exceptional and would be my pick for next.
That's fair. Okay, well.
Plus, I want somebody with a little bit of upbeat based on some of the stuff I've already got on here.
Yeah.
So.
My favorite Taylor Swift album is 1989 by Ryan Adams, which is his...
That son of a bitch
I
shows
know.
his face
I
again
know.
in here.
I can't believe it's
Ryan, get out of here.
I can't believe we're mentioning him twice in one show. Have you listened to this? He covers the
I
entire
have.
entirety.
It was kind of before he became a douchebag.
It's
though,
PDB
up there with
pre-DB.
your Kanye pick.
Yeah, I know. And it's a little tamed down too. So if you're looking for upbeatness, maybe that's not a great pick. I'm really showing my colors here, but yeah, I really like that album.
Another honorable mention, and I had mentioned this to Alex before, that I might move one off and put this on there. And I don't remember how it popped up in my memory, but 1977 or 78's Bat Out of Hell by Meatloaf. And I listened to that front to back, and it's excellent. It's so much fun. But it fell into that category of like, just you need it like once every like 3 years, front to back is like a fun show. And if it's one of 5 albums, it's just not going to make the cut. Sure. What was yours, Mitch?
I would probably, I thought about this, and it's a tough one. If on the spot right now, I would do 2016's Awaken My Love by Childish Gambino. I really love that album. It's a very good departure of things he's put out in the past. I think it's a lot of different genres that are pulled in there, and a really kind of big step for him musically compared to because of the internet and everything else that he's put out before.
What do you cut?
What's that?
What did you say you'd cut?
I'd probably get rid of Chulahoma, to be totally honest. I love the album. It's also very short, which is kind of the biggest complaint. It's like 30 minutes or something like that. So as great as that album is in its entirety, it's like going for longevity as well. I'd rather have something a little bit longer. So
yeah, I won't be bullied off my Lana Del Rey pick,
sure,
but I would consider replacing either Swimming or At Mount Zoomer, and I would replace them with probably Yankee Hotel Foxtrot by Wilco.
That's a good choice.
That's a great pick. Why didn't you put that on there right out of the gate?
Dude, I know.
Damn it.
It's like number 6 or 7, and the other one that was in heavy consideration. Well, probably the next highest is Sound of Silver by LCD Sound System.
Okay, that's a good choice as well. Yeah. Okay. But
You could have won this thing.
yeah, those weren't reasonable points. But
My B team is stacked.
yeah, we might be safe. But for those of you that are new, our final bit that we have here is we assume that our islands have merged at some point in time, and we are finally together, and we are no longer separate. But we do have to vote off someone's musical collection. They can stick around on the island because we all need friends, but we are, much like Wilson, we are casting their album selection out to sea. So
Punting it out there like a volleyball.
Yes, much like a handprint on a volleyball, it is no longer part of our lives at this point. So I'm curious if again, looking through all these, I think we all make great choices. I'm curious who you guys would vote off or not want to have on your island.
Yeah, so I think one thing I'm realizing as we talk through this is what I want the mood of the island to be, and if I'm going for uplifting, which is really the only option, I think I have to vote Justin's music off and keep Mitch's, because we're looking at Daft Punk, Run the Jewels, Geography. I think those are getting my mood up. I'm ready to collect some firewood. I'm not gonna just be drowning my tears in the sand.
You see that? You give him some honest feedback, and he gets your ass casted off.
Yep.
So it looks like the power is going to come to you, Mitch,
Yeah, wow.
because I don't think it's a surprise. I will say you had my favorite pick, but then also my least favorite pick. So I would allow Mitch's music to stay and vote Hubbard's picks off the island.
Wow. Okay, this is a lot of pressure. I'm sure whichever I pick ultimately gets me killed in my sleep because you guys are upset about who else. This is hard because again, I think I would say you both have choices that I really love and things that I really didn't enjoy. I'm gonna say, God, this is tough. Hubbard, you're getting the boot. I'm sorry.
There he goes.
All right, pass the Malort.
Yeah, I think with the only reason I'm picking it is kind of the similar reason that you choose, which is swimming and ultraviolence are really depressing. And
Yeah, fair.
Like,
Honestly, they are.
again, we have to survive on this island for a long period of time, and if there are periods where, as much as I want to be open emotionally and feel as much as I can on this island, if I'm at the end of my rope and hating everyone on this island and swimming comes on, like, I'm going to be in an even worse mood.
You are going
I am
swimming.
swimming, goddammit, and not coming back. So I think I'm going to cast those out to sea. But again, I'm sticking with it, but I can't overstress how much I loved Girls Can Tell. I really love that album as well, too.
Great.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
I think we've all got some new music to listen to.
agreed.
So
Yes,
good
which
stuff.
is the point of this, which
Yeah,
is great.
A lot of fun.
Indeed. Cool.
Good topics.
Well, for those of you out there still listening, thank you for making it to the end with us. I know this is a slog, but hopefully you learned a little bit more about us as we learned more about each other. Cool. Well, thank you all for joining us. Looking forward to seeing you all next time. Thank you again.